How many times have you gone to bed disappointed because you knew exactly what needed to be done, but still did not do it? That pain is not laziness. It is the distance between who you are and who you know you could become. This audiobook will teach you how to close that distance, one difficult task at a time. Stay until the final chapter, because you will discover how to act without waiting for motivation. Subscribe to the Book Frog. Tomorrow has taken enough from you. Chapter 1. The task you avoid is already controlling you. Before you can defeat procrastination, you must admit something uncomfortable. The task you keep avoiding is not sitting quietly on your list. It is already controlling you. It controls what you think about when you wake up. It follows you while you complete smaller, easier jobs. It whispers in the background while you scroll through your phone, watch another video, clean your room, answer unimportant messages, or tell yourself that you are preparing. Even when you are not working on that task, you are still carrying it. Perhaps it is an application that could change your career, a difficult conversation you need to have, a health appointment you keep postponing, a project you are afraid to begin, or a promise you made to yourself months ago. Whatever it is, you already know its name. You feel it whenever life becomes quiet. The task may require only 1 hour, but avoiding it has already consumed days of mental energy. That is the hidden price of procrastination. You do not simply delay the work. You continue paying for it through stress, distraction, guilt, and weakened confidence. Real rest makes you feel restored. Avoidance does not. You can lie down for hours and still feel exhausted because your body stopped moving while your mind continued carrying unfinished business. The task remains open inside you, demanding attention without receiving action. This is why you can have an easy day and still go to bed feeling disappointed. You were not defeated by the amount of work. You were defeated by the one thing you knew mattered and refused to face. Every time you avoid discomfort, your brain rewards you with temporary relief. You look at the difficult task, feel resistance, and escape into something easier. For a few moments, the pressure disappears, but your mind learns a dangerous lesson. When something feels uncomfortable, running away works. The next time you face that task, the resistance becomes stronger. What once felt difficult begins to feel impossible. The task has not necessarily grown, but your fear of beginning it has. Each escape gives procrastination more authority until your emotions are deciding what your future is allowed to receive. This is how people lose control of their lives without noticing. They believe they are choosing comfort for one afternoon, but they are actually training themselves to obey discomfort. They wait to feel motivated, confident, prepared, or inspired. Meanwhile, the task becomes heavier, the opportunity becomes smaller, and tomorrow becomes another hiding place. Procrastination rarely says, "Never do it." That would be too obvious. It speaks more softly. It says, "Do it later, when you have more energy. Begin tomorrow, when your mind is clearer. Wait until you understand everything. Start when the conditions are perfect." That voice sounds reasonable, which is why it is so dangerous. It does not ask you to abandon your dream. It only asks you to delay it one more day. But a life can disappear through a series of harmless-looking tomorrows. Think about something you have postponed for weeks or months. Now ask yourself what avoiding it has already cost you. Has it stolen your peace? Has it damaged your health, confidence, finances, career, or relationship? Has it made you question whether you can trust yourself? That last cost is the deepest one. When you repeatedly promise yourself that you will act and repeatedly break that promise, you begin losing faith in your own words. You may still speak confidently around other people, but somewhere inside, you stop believing yourself. You say, "I will begin Monday." But part of you already knows that Monday has heard this promise before. Self-confidence is not built only through positive thinking. It is built through evidence. Every completed promise becomes proof that your word has power. Every avoided promise becomes proof that discomfort can control you. This means the task in front of you is larger than it appears. Completing it is not only about sending the email, making the call, exercising, studying, writing, or finishing the project. It is about rebuilding your relationship with yourself. It is about proving that when you say something matters, your actions will eventually agree. Imagine two people facing the same difficult task. The first waits until fear disappears. The second begins while fear is still present. The first person may believe the second is more confident, more motivated, or naturally disciplined. But that is usually not true. The second person has simply understood that action must come before confidence. Confidence is often the reward for beginning, not the requirement. You do not wait until you feel powerful and then face the task. You face the task, and that action begins returning your power. The moment you start, the task stops living only inside your imagination. It becomes real, measurable, and manageable. Fear loses some of its size because you are finally looking at what it was protecting. Consider the person who spends an entire week preparing to write one important proposal. They research, organize files, improve their workspace, and answer every message. From the outside, they appear busy, but their busyness is only a beautiful disguise for fear. The proposal remains untouched because finishing it creates the possibility of judgment, rejection, or responsibility. Then one morning, they open the document and begin. The first paragraph is imperfect. The second is uncomfortable. But after 20 minutes, something changes. The proposal is no longer a monster waiting in the future. It is simply work being completed in the present. Nothing magical happened. Fear did not disappear before action. Action made fear less important. This is the first truth you must carry throughout this audiobook. The task does not need your confidence, it needs your presence. You do not have to feel ready, you only have to stop leaving. Right now, think of the task that creates the most pressure whenever you remember it. Do not choose the easiest item on your list. Choose the one your mind immediately tries to escape from. Complete this sentence honestly. The task I keep avoiding is, then ask a second question. What is this delay already costing me? Do not answer with what it might cost someday. Name what it is costing you now. Perhaps it is costing your sleep. Perhaps it is creating distance in a relationship. Perhaps it is keeping you financially stuck. Perhaps it is making you feel smaller every time you break another promise to yourself. When the price of avoidance becomes clear, action stops looking so painful. You realize that you have never been choosing between discomfort and comfort. You have been choosing between two kinds of discomfort: the temporary discomfort of doing the work and the lasting discomfort of remaining trapped. One pain moves your life forward. The other keeps collecting interest. Your first victory is not completing everything today. Your first victory is refusing to hide from the truth. Look directly at the task, say its name, admit what delaying it is costing you. Stop calling avoidance preparation, confusion, bad timing, or lack of motivation. The task is controlling you because you keep giving it permission to remain undefined, untouched, and larger than reality. The moment you face it honestly, you begin taking that permission back. But there is another danger. Not every difficult task is your real frog. Some people exhaust themselves doing hard work that changes nothing, while the one task capable of transforming their lives remains hidden beneath emails, errands, planning, and endless preparation. So before you rush into action, you must learn how to separate meaningful difficulty from useless busyness. In the next chapter, you will discover how to find the real frog hiding behind all the easy work, because choosing the wrong task can keep you busy for years while your most important life remains untouched. Chapter 2. Find the real frog hiding behind easy work. In the first chapter, you faced the truth that an avoided task can quietly control your life. But now you must confront a more deceptive problem. Sometimes the task keeping you busy is not the task that matters. You can wake up early, work for hours, answer messages, organize files, make lists, attend meetings, clean your workspace, research new methods, and still finish the day without moving your life forward. You were active, perhaps even exhausted, but the one task capable of creating a meaningful result remained untouched. This is productive procrastination. It is avoidance wearing the clothes of responsibility. Ordinary procrastination is easy to recognize. You know you are wasting time when you are endlessly scrolling, watching random videos, or doing nothing. Productive procrastination is more dangerous because it makes you feel innocent. You tell yourself that you worked hard, so you cannot possibly be avoiding anything. But being busy and being effective are not the same. Busyness measures how much energy you spent. Effectiveness measures whether that energy changed anything important. The real frog is not always the longest, most complicated, or most unpleasant task on your list. It is the task with the greatest consequence. It is the action that can open a door, solve a serious problem, remove a blockage, or move you closer to the life you claim to want. Your inbox may contain 20 messages, but one difficult phone call could change your career. You may spend hours improving your business logo, but contacting one real customer could create your first sale. You may read 10 articles about health, but booking the appointment you fear could finally give you clarity. You may organize an entire study plan, but completing one practice test could reveal exactly what you need to improve. Easy tasks give you quick satisfaction because they are clear, familiar, and safe. You know how to complete them, and they rarely threaten your identity. They allow you to feel productive without risking failure, rejection, judgment, or disappointment. The real frog usually contains uncertainty. You may not know whether your effort will succeed. Someone may criticize what you produce. The result may expose your weaknesses. The decision may create new responsibility. That is why your mind quietly pushes the task downward and replaces it with easier work. You do not always avoid the task because it is difficult. Sometimes you avoid it because it matters. If an unimportant task goes badly, little changes. If the important task goes badly, you may have to confront what you still need to learn. Your ego understands this. It would rather keep your potential safely untested than allow reality to judge it. As long as you never finish the project, you can continue believing it would have been successful. As long as you never apply, you do not have to face rejection. As long as you never begin the conversation, you do not have to hear an uncomfortable answer. As long as you remain in preparation, you can protect the fantasy of what might happen. This is why some people prepare for years and begin nothing. Imagine someone who dreams of building a business. Every morning they watch educational videos, redesign their plans, search for better tools, study successful people, and organize their schedule. Their notebooks are full, their mind is busy, their days feel productive, but they never speak to a potential customer. The real frog is not learning more. The real frog is offering something to another person and risking the possibility of hearing no. Everything else has become a sophisticated hiding place. Now imagine someone who wants to become a writer. They spend weeks choosing software, researching publishing, arranging their desk, and searching for inspiration. They may genuinely believe they are working on the book, but the document remains empty. The real frog is not preparing to write. It is writing a page that may be imperfect. Preparation has value only when it leads toward action. When preparation repeatedly replaces action, it becomes procrastination. To find your real frog, stop asking, "What can I complete quickly?" Ask, "What completed action would create the greatest meaningful change?" The answer may make you uncomfortable. That discomfort is useful information. Look at everything demanding your attention and ask which task would make tomorrow easier if you finished it today. Which action would remove the greatest pressure from your mind? Which task would create a result instead of merely creating more activity? Which unfinished responsibility becomes more expensive every time you delay it? Then ask the question most people avoid. What am I secretly hoping will disappear without requiring me to face it? That question often reveals the frog immediately. Perhaps you are hoping a financial problem will somehow solve itself. Perhaps you are waiting for a relationship issue to disappear without an honest conversation. Perhaps you are hoping an opportunity will remain available until you finally feel confident. Perhaps you are waiting for your health, career, or personal life to improve while avoiding the decision that improvement requires. Important tasks rarely disappear when ignored. They return with interest. There is another distinction you must understand. Urgent tasks and important tasks are not always the same. Urgent tasks make noise. They flash on screens, arrive as notifications, and demand immediate attention. Important tasks are often silent. No alarm rings when you neglect your health. No notification appears when another day passes without working on your dream. Your future rarely shouts. It waits. Because urgent tasks are loud, they can consume your entire day. You react to everyone else's priorities, while your own life receives whatever energy remains. By evening, you are too tired for the work that matters, so you promise to begin tomorrow. Then tomorrow arrives with another full inbox. If you do not choose your frog deliberately, the world will choose your day for you. This does not mean ignoring every message or responsibility. It means refusing to confuse responsiveness with progress. Answering people may maintain your current life, but completing the right task can transform it. The real frog may also be a decision rather than a piece of work. Sometimes you are overwhelmed by 10 smaller tasks because you refuse to make one clear choice. You keep gathering information, asking for opinions, and imagining every possible outcome. You tell yourself that you need certainty, but certainty is not available. Until you decide, your energy remains divided. The unfinished decision continues producing anxiety, confusion, and more work. In this situation, your frog is not doing more. It is choosing a direction and accepting that every meaningful choice closes other doors. A decision can be frightening because it makes your life real. It ends the comfortable world of unlimited possibilities and asks you to commit to one path. But refusing to decide is still a decision. It is the decision to remain where you are. To identify your frog today, take every task in your mind and imagine that you are allowed to complete only one of them. Not the easiest one, not the one that makes you look productive. Choose the one whose completion would create the greatest relief, progress, or opportunity. Now describe the result clearly. Do not write, "Work on my project." That phrase gives procrastination too much room. Define what finished means. It may mean sending the proposal, completing the first page, making the appointment, submitting the application, recording the video, having the conversation, or choosing the date. Vague tasks create vague action. A frog without a clear shape becomes impossible to eat because you never know where it begins or ends. Say exactly what must exist when the task is complete. Then notice what your mind does. It may immediately offer you several smaller things to finish first. It may say that you should clean, research, plan, check your messages, or wait for a better time. Do not argue with the voice. Simply recognize it. Your mind is revealing the escape routes it normally uses. Write them down if necessary. When you can see your escape routes, they lose some of their power. There is strength in choosing one meaningful target. Scattered attention makes every task feel heavy because your mind is constantly switching between unfinished responsibilities. Clear attention simplifies the battle. You no longer have to conquer your entire life today. You only have to stop hiding from the task that matters most. Your real frog may frighten you because it carries consequence. That is precisely why completing it can change you. Easy work gives you the satisfaction of movement. Meaningful work gives you evidence of growth. At the end of this chapter, you should be able to complete one sentence. the task that would move my life forward most is. Do not choose the answer that sounds impressive. Choose the one that feels honest. Once you identify it, you have already removed one of procrastination's greatest weapons, confusion. You know where your attention belongs. You know which task matters. You know what finished looks like. But knowing your frog does not guarantee that you will face it. Many people clearly understand what they need to do and still wait for the right emotion to arrive. They wait to feel motivated, confident, energetic, or inspired before beginning. That waiting becomes the next prison. In Chapter 3, you will learn why motivation cannot be trusted to rescue you and how to begin even when every feeling inside you is asking for another tomorrow. Chapter 3. Stop waiting for motivation to rescue you. Once you have identified the task that truly matters, a dangerous thought usually appears. I know what I need to do. I will begin when I feel ready. That sentence has buried more dreams than failure ever could. You assume that one morning you will wake up filled with energy, confidence, focus, and desire. You imagine a future version of yourself who feels no resistance and begins without fear. So you wait for that person to arrive. But morning after morning, you wake up as the same human being. The task is still difficult. Your mind still prefers comfort. Your phone still offers an easier escape. Motivation visits occasionally, but it never stays long enough to build the life you want. Motivation is an emotion, and emotions are temporary. They rise, fall, change direction, and respond to everything around you. Your energy changes after a difficult night. Your confidence changes after criticism. Your enthusiasm changes when results take longer than expected. If your actions depend completely on your emotions, then your future will be controlled by conditions you cannot command. This does not mean motivation is useless. Motivation can help you begin, but it is too unreliable to become the foundation of your life. It is a spark, not a power supply. The mistake is believing that motivation must come before action. In reality, motivation often appears after action has already begun. Think about the last time you resisted exercising, cleaning, studying, writing, or completing an important responsibility. Before beginning, the task felt heavy. Your mind produced reasons to delay. You imagined the entire amount of effort required, and the weight of that imagination made you tired before you had moved. Then perhaps you finally started. After several minutes, the resistance became quieter. Your attention shifted away from how you felt and toward what you were doing. Progress became visible. The task stopped feeling like a threat and began feeling like movement. The motivation you had been waiting for was hiding behind the beginning. Action creates information. Information creates clarity. Clarity reduces fear. Reduced fear makes continued action easier. But when you remain still, imagination fills the empty space with worst-case scenarios, exaggerated difficulty, and endless doubt. This is why the task often feels hardest before you touch it. Your mind does not experience the real task while you are avoiding it. It experiences a distorted version made from uncertainty. A 20-minute responsibility can become a 3-hour monster in your imagination. One uncomfortable conversation can feel like the destruction of an entire relationship. One application can feel like a final judgment on your value. Action interrupts that distortion. It replaces imagined difficulty with direct experience. The first lesson is simple but demanding. Do not wait for your emotions to approve an action that your values have already chosen. If the task matters, your mood does not get the final vote. Many people unknowingly ask themselves the wrong question every morning. They look at an important task and ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" The answer is usually no, because meaningful work often contains effort, uncertainty, and delayed reward. The better question is, what did I already decide matters? This question moves authority away from your temporary feelings and returns it to your deeper commitments. It reminds you that the decision was made when you were thinking clearly, not in the moment when comfort began negotiating. Your mind will still produce excuses, but you no longer need to treat every thought as an instruction. You may think, "I am too tired," while still having enough energy to begin. You may think, "I am not ready," while possessing everything necessary for the first action. You may think, "Tomorrow will be better," without having any evidence that tomorrow will contain more courage than today. A thought can exist without being obeyed. This is one of the most powerful forms of inner freedom. You do not have to eliminate resistance before moving. You can feel resistance, understand it, and still continue in the direction you chose. Discipline is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to act without requiring the perfect emotion. Imagine a person standing outside in heavy rain. They cannot control the weather, but they can choose whether to keep walking. Motivation is emotional weather. Some days are bright, some days are cold, dark, and difficult. If you move only when the sky is clear, you will spend much of your life waiting indoors. Your goal is not to create perfect emotional weather. Your goal is to become someone who can move through changing conditions. This requires separating the decision to act from the feeling of wanting to act. When the alarm rings, do not begin a debate about whether you feel like getting up. The longer you remain still, the more arguments comfort will produce. When it is time to write, do not first ask whether you feel creative. Sit where writing happens. When it is time to exercise, do not negotiate the entire workout inside your head. Put your body where movement begins. Your physical actions can lead your emotions. If you wait for the mind to become willing, you may wait for hours, but when the body begins moving, the mind often follows. Open the document. Stand beside the equipment. Place the phone outside the room. Dial the number. Sit at the desk. Put the materials in front of you. These actions look small, but they change your state from deciding to doing. The distance between intention and action is where procrastination grows. The longer you remain inside that distance, the more opportunities your mind receives to escape. You remember another task. You decide you need coffee. You check one message. You search for more information. Soon, the time you reserved for meaningful work has disappeared. That is why decisions must have physical consequences. "I will work on my goal today" is only a wish. At 9 o'clock, I will sit at the desk, open the document, and begin. Gives the decision a body. Clarity removes negotiation. A useful way to become independent from motivation is to create a fixed starting signal. Choose something simple and repeatable that tells your mind the debate has ended. It might be sitting in the same chair, placing a notebook on the table, starting a timer, closing the door, or switching off your phone. Over time, the signal begins reducing resistance because your mind recognizes what comes next. You no longer need to create a new decision every day. The routine carries you across the moment where excuses usually appear. This is important because constant decision-making is exhausting. If you must repeatedly decide whether, when, and where to begin, you give procrastination 3 opportunities to interfere. A pre-selected time, place, and first movement remove those openings. The person who appears highly disciplined may not possess more willpower than you. They may simply have fewer negotiations. They do not win a dramatic battle every morning. They have designed a pattern that makes the correct action easier to enter. They know where the work happens, when it begins, and what the first movement looks like. You can build the same pattern. Choose one task and connect it to one reliable moment in your day. Do not say you will complete it later. Later is not a time. It is a place where avoided responsibilities go to disappear. Select a real moment, after breakfast, at 8 in the morning, immediately after arriving home, before opening social media. Connect the action to something that already happens consistently. Then protect the beginning from unnecessary choices. Prepare what you need before the starting moment arrives. If you intend to exercise, place the clothes where you can see them. If you need to write, leave the document open. If you must make a call, put the number in front of you. If you are studying, Place the book and notebook on the table. Preparation should shorten the distance to action, not become another form of avoidance. There is a difference between preparing the path and decorating the path forever. You do not need the perfect system, expensive equipment, ideal environment, or complete understanding. You need enough preparation to remove friction, followed by movement. The mind often demands certainty because certainty feels safe. It says, understand everything before you begin. But meaningful work frequently reveals its instructions only after you enter it. The first paragraph teaches you what the second paragraph needs. The first customer conversation reveals what people actually want. The first workout shows your current strength. The first attempt exposes the real problem. You cannot think your way into information that only action can provide. Waiting until you know exactly what to do is often another attempt to avoid feeling inexperienced. You want to begin with the confidence of someone who has already practiced, but competence is created through imperfect repetition. The beginner who accepts being a beginner progresses. The beginner who tries to avoid looking like a beginner remains one. You must give yourself permission to be temporarily unskilled. Your first attempts may be slow, awkward, and disappointing. That does not mean you chose the wrong path. It means you have entered the part of the path where growth becomes possible. Motivation struggles when you expect immediate excellence. If every action must produce impressive results, beginning becomes emotionally dangerous. You are not simply doing the work. You are asking each attempt to prove that you are talented, intelligent, and worthy. That pressure creates paralysis. Release the task from the responsibility of proving your value. The work is allowed to be practice. The first result is allowed to be incomplete. You are allowed to learn through action instead of performing perfection from the beginning. Perfectionism often looks like high standards, but when it repeatedly prevents completion, it is fear with an attractive name. A completed imperfect effort can be examined, improved, and used. A perfect idea trapped inside your mind changes nothing. This does not mean producing careless work. It means understanding the correct order. First, create something real, then improve it. Quality needs material to work with. You cannot edit an empty page, strengthen a conversation you never started, or improve a routine you never tested. The demand for perfection must not become an excuse for permanent absence. You also need to understand what happens when motivation fades during the task. Many people can begin when excitement is high, but they stop when the work becomes repetitive, confusing, or slow. They mistake declining emotion for evidence that something is wrong. Motivation naturally falls after novelty disappears. The beginning of a goal is exciting because everything feels possible. You imagine the finished result, the praise, the freedom, and the transformation. Then the daily work begins. Progress becomes less visible. The task asks for repetition rather than inspiration. This is where commitment becomes more important than excitement. Anyone can act when the reward feels close. Your future is shaped by what you do when the reward feels distant. There will be days when the work feels ordinary. Those days are not meaningless. They are where identity is formed. Every time you continue without emotional excitement, you prove that your commitment is stronger than your mood. You become dependable to yourself. This matters because consistency creates a different kind of motivation. At first, you act without feeling motivated. Then progress appears. Progress creates satisfaction. Satisfaction increases belief. Belief makes the next action easier. The cycle begins with movement. Many people reverse the order. They wait for belief before creating evidence. But belief grows when you watch yourself behave differently. You do not become confident by repeatedly telling yourself that you can act. You become confident by collecting memories of action. Each completed session becomes evidence. Each difficult morning you survived becomes evidence. Each time you began without wanting to becomes evidence. Eventually, your mind stops asking whether you are capable because your behavior has already answered. This is how discipline becomes identity. At first you say, "I am trying to become consistent." Later you begin saying, "I am someone who follows through." The words change because the evidence changed, but do not turn one missed day into a new identity. This is another trap. You may follow your plan for a week, miss one session, and immediately think, "I always fail. I have ruined everything." One mistake does not destroy progress. The decision to surrender after the mistake does. Consistency does not mean never falling. It means shortening the distance between falling and returning. If you miss the starting time, begin at the next honest opportunity. If you lose one day, return the following day. Do not spend 3 days punishing yourself for one imperfect moment. Guilt can become another form of procrastination when it keeps you staring backward instead of moving forward. The goal is not an unbroken record. The goal is a reliable return. You must learn to recover without drama. Do not create a speech about your failure. Do not redesign your entire system. Do not wait for another Monday, another month, or another burst of inspiration. Return quietly. Strong people are not people who never lose momentum. They are people who know how to rebuild it quickly. There is also a difference between genuine exhaustion and emotional resistance. Your body sometimes needs rest, and wisdom requires listening. But emotional resistance often pretends to be exhaustion. You may feel too tired for the important task, while somehow having energy for an hour of scrolling, entertainment, or conversation. Ask yourself, do I need recovery, or do I want escape? Real recovery has a purpose. It restores you so that you can return. Escape has no clear ending. It keeps consuming time while leaving you more tired and more disappointed. If you genuinely need rest, rest honestly. Choose when it begins and when it ends. Remove the guilt. Allow your body and mind to recover. But do not call uncontrolled avoidance rest. Rest should return you to your life, not help you disappear from it. The task you identified does not require you to become a machine. It requires you to stop giving every changing feeling the authority to rewrite your commitments. You can be afraid and begin. You can be tired and take one honest action. You can feel uncertain and still move toward clarity. You can dislike the task and complete it because the result matters more than the momentary discomfort. This is adulthood at its most powerful. Doing what matters even when no emotion arrives to carry you. Think again about your real frog. Notice the feeling that appears when you imagine beginning. Do not fight it. Name it. Perhaps it is fear, boredom, confusion, resentment, or self-doubt. Then remind yourself that the feeling is not a locked door. It is weather. Your responsibility is not to make the weather disappear. Your responsibility is to take the next physical action while it is still raining. Place your body where the work happens. Remove one escape route. Follow the starting signal you selected. Let the first minutes feel uncomfortable without interpreting that discomfort as a command to stop. Resistance is often loudest at the doorway. Once you enter the work, attention begins replacing anxiety. The mind that was producing excuses now has a real problem to solve. Energy that was being spent on avoidance becomes available for action. The task becomes smaller because you are no longer facing the entire imagined future. You are facing the present moment. You may not feel motivated when you begin. Begin anyway. You may not feel confident when you begin. Begin anyway. You may not know exactly how everything will work. Begin with what you know. You have spent enough time waiting for a feeling to rescue you. Motivation was never coming to carry you across the starting line. It was waiting on the other side, where movement creates energy, progress creates belief, and completed promises restore your power. The person you want to become will not be created on the days when everything feels easy. That person is being created in the quiet moment when your mind says, "Not today," and your actions answer, "Today anyway." You do not need to feel ready. You need to stop making readiness the price of beginning. Chapter 4. Make the first bite impossible to refuse. Acid you nor not Hansen, Holland Phobby. You have stopped waiting for motivation. You understand that action must come before the feeling of readiness. But even when you accept this truth, one problem remains. The task in front of you can still feel too heavy to touch. You look at the unfinished project, the difficult conversation, the business idea, the examination, the health goal, or the decision you have delayed, and your mind immediately sees the entire mountain. It sees every hour of effort, every possible mistake, every uncomfortable moment, every way you might fail. Before you have taken one step, your mind has already forced you to experience the weight of the entire journey. That is why you freeze. Not because you are incapable of doing the work, but because you are trying to carry all of it before you have even begun. The task may take 10 hours, but your mind wants you to feel those 10 hours right now. The project may require 50 decisions, but your mind wants every decision solved before you open the first page. The conversation may last only 5 minutes, but your imagination creates 50 painful versions of how it could go wrong. This is how a manageable task becomes emotionally unbearable. You do not experience the task as one action. You experience it as a giant cloud of uncertainty, effort, pressure, and fear. And the larger that cloud becomes, the more attractive escape begins to feel. You check your phone. You make another cup of coffee. You organize your workspace. You watch a video about productivity. You promise yourself that you will begin when your mind feels calmer, but your mind does not become calmer because the untouched task continues growing in your imagination. Every hour you avoid it makes it feel more powerful. Every promise you break makes beginning feel more difficult. Every delay adds another layer of guilt. Soon, you are not only carrying the task, you are carrying the disappointment of every time you said you would start and did not. This is where many people make a serious mistake. They believe the solution is to become stronger than the entire task. They tell themselves to be more disciplined, more confident, more focused, and more motivated. But you do not need enough strength to complete the whole task right now. You only need enough courage to take the first bite. The first bite is the smallest meaningful action that turns your task from an idea into a reality. It is not thinking about the work. It is not promising to do the work. It is not preparing forever to do the work. It is the first visible action that leaves evidence behind. If you want to write, the first bite is not work on the book. That instruction is too large and too vague. The first bite could be opening the document and writing one imperfect paragraph. If you need to exercise, the first bite is not get in shape. It could be putting on your shoes and walking outside for 5 minutes. If you need to apply for a new job, the first bite is not change my career. It could be opening your resume and rewriting the first 3 lines. If you need to have a difficult conversation, the first bite is not solve the relationship. It could be writing one honest sentence that explains what you need to say. If you want to start a business, the first bite is not build a successful company. It could be identifying one real problem that one specific person would pay you to solve. The first bite must be small enough to begin without a long internal argument, but meaningful enough to create movement. That balance is important. If the action is too large, resistance will stop you. If it is too meaningless, you will remain busy without moving forward. Opening your laptop can be useful, but it is not enough if you immediately disappear into emails and entertainment. Putting a notebook on your desk can help, but it is not progress if the page remains empty. The first bite must touch the real task. It must create a crack in the wall of resistance. It must tell your mind, we are no longer discussing whether this will happen. It has already started. Beginning has a power that planning does not. Before you begin, the task belongs to your imagination. And imagination can turn one difficult step into a disaster. After you begin, The task belongs to reality. Reality gives you information. Reality shows you what is actually difficult and what only looked difficult from a distance. Reality gives you something to improve. A blank page can frighten you for weeks. A bad paragraph can be corrected in minutes. An unopened message can create days of anxiety. A simple reply can end the uncertainty. A business idea can feel impossible while it exists only in your head. One conversation with a potential customer can reveal the next practical move. Movement reduces fear because movement replaces imagination with evidence. This is why the quality of your first bite matters more than the size of your ambition. You may have an extraordinary goal, but if the doorway into that goal feels painful, confusing, or overwhelming, you will continue walking past it. The goal does not need to become smaller, the doorway does. Imagine someone named Daniel who has been avoiding an important proposal. If the proposal is accepted, it could transform his career. His manager has asked for it twice. Daniel knows he has the ability to complete it, but every time he thinks about starting, he imagines the finished document. He sees 20 polished pages, research, financial estimates, charts, questions from senior leaders, possible criticism. The more he imagines, the more exhausted he feels, so he checks his email first. Then he answers small messages. Then he adjusts his calendar. Then he begins helping other people with their work, because assisting them feels easier than facing his own. At the end of the day, Daniel has been busy for 9 hours, but the proposal remains untouched. He goes home frustrated. He tells himself tomorrow will be different. But tomorrow, the proposal feels even heavier because it now carries another day of avoidance. Daniel's problem is not that he cannot write the proposal. His problem is that his instruction to himself is too large. Finish the proposal creates resistance because it contains dozens of actions hidden inside one command. He must choose an argument, collect information, organize sections, write a draft, examine the numbers, revise the language, and prepare for questions. His brain sees one task, but his nervous system feels 30 tasks arriving at the same time. Now imagine Daniel changes the instruction. He does not tell himself to finish the proposal. He tells himself to open a blank document and write 3 ugly questions the proposal must answer. That is all. The first question might be unclear. The second might be incomplete. The third might change later. None of that matters. The purpose of those questions is not to create a perfect proposal. Their purpose is to break the spell of avoidance. Once the questions are visible, Daniel has something real in front of him. One question reminds him of a report he already has. He opens the report and copies one useful number into the document. That number suggests a possible argument. He writes 2 rough sentences. 15 minutes later, Daniel has not completed the proposal, but something important has changed. The proposal is no longer an untouched threat. It is now unfinished work. There is a great difference between untouched work and unfinished work. Untouched work feels mysterious. Unfinished work has direction. Untouched work invites fear. Unfinished work invites improvement. Untouched work asks, "Can you do this?" Unfinished work asks, "What should you do next?" That is the power of the first bite. It does not complete the mountain, it creates the path. Many people believe they need a detailed plan before they can begin. Planning can help, but planning becomes dangerous when it is used to avoid contact with reality. You can spend weeks designing the perfect workout routine without exercising once. You can research writing techniques without writing a single page. You can watch hours of business advice without speaking to one customer. You can compare courses, applications, tools, and systems until preparation becomes your hiding place. A useful plan shortens the distance between you and action. An avoidance plan makes that distance longer. Ask yourself a simple question. Does this preparation make the real work easier to begin, or does it allow me to feel productive while remaining safe? Your answer will often reveal the truth. The first bite should usually be physical, visible, and specific. Think about my goals is not specific enough. Write the 3 goals I want to complete before Friday is specific. Work on my health is not visible. Prepare 1 healthy meal for tomorrow is visible. Fix my finances is too large. Open the last bank statement and identify the 3 biggest unnecessary expenses. Creates a clear action. Improve my relationship is emotionally vague. Ask for 20 uninterrupted minutes to discuss one issue calmly, gives the intention a shape. Your brain struggles to begin vague actions because vague actions have no obvious entrance. When you say, "I need to work on my life," your mind has nowhere to place its hands. When you say, "At 7 tonight, I will sit at the kitchen table and complete the first page of the application," the entrance becomes visible. You know where, you know when, you know what. You know what finished looks like. Clarity lowers resistance because clarity removes decisions. Every decision you must make at the moment of action gives resistance another opportunity to negotiate. Where should I work? When should I start? Which part should I do first? What tool should I use? How long should I continue? Should I wait until I have more energy? Each unanswered question becomes another open door through which avoidance can enter. Close those doors before the moment arrives. Do not say, "I will exercise tomorrow." Decide what time, where, what clothes you will wear, and what the first movement will be. Do not say, "I will study later." Decide which subject, which page, which chair, and which question you will answer first. Do not say, "I need to call that person." Write down the number, choose the time, and prepare the first honest sentence you will say. The goal is not to control every minute of your day. The goal is to remove unnecessary choices from the doorway of important work. Your mind may resist the task, but it should not be allowed to redesign the entrance every time you approach it. Create one reliable doorway and use it repeatedly. The first bite should also have a finish line. If you tell yourself, "I must work until this becomes perfect," you have created a task with no safe ending. Your brain cannot see where the discomfort stops, so it will resist beginning. Instead, define a small, honest finish line. 1 paragraph, 1 phone call, 10 calculations, 5 minutes of movement, 1 page of notes, 1 direct question, 1 decision written clearly. A finish line gives your mind certainty. It says, you are not entering an endless prison. You are completing one defined action. Sometimes you will stop after reaching that line. That is acceptable. Sometimes the first bite will create enough momentum that you continue for an hour. That is powerful. But do not make continuation a hidden requirement. If you tell yourself that 5 minutes secretly means 3 hours, your mind will eventually stop trusting the promise. When you choose a small first action, honor it. Starting must be required. Continuing can be optional. This rule sounds gentle, but it builds a serious form of discipline. It teaches you that your word can be trusted. You said you would begin, and you began. You said you would write 1 paragraph, and 1 paragraph now exists. You said you would walk for 5 minutes, and you walked. You said you would make 1 call, and the call has been made. Been penned and feels. Self-trust is built through completed agreements, not dramatic promises. People often destroy their self-trust by creating plans for an imaginary version of themselves. They plan for the person who wakes up with perfect energy, works without distraction, never becomes afraid, and remains focused for hours. Then the real person arrives, tired, uncertain, human, and cannot follow the plan. The failure is not always a failure of character. Sometimes it is a failure of design. If your system only works when you feel extraordinary, it is not a dependable system. Design the first bite for the version of you who will actually appear, the version who may be tired, the version who may doubt, the version who may not feel inspired. Make the beginning simple enough that even this version of you can enter. This does not mean lowering your standards for the final result. It means lowering the emotional cost of entering the work. A professional writer can still aim to create an excellent book while beginning with an imperfect sentence. An athlete can still pursue great strength while beginning by putting on training clothes. An entrepreneur can still build an ambitious company while beginning with one uncomfortable customer conversation. Small beginnings and large ambitions are not enemies. Small beginnings are often how large ambitions survive. A seed is not an insult to the tree. It is the form the tree must take before it can grow. But there is another trap you must avoid. Once some people discover the power of small steps, they begin celebrating steps that never lead anywhere. They clean the desk, choose a font, rename the folder, buy another notebook, download another application, arrange the equipment, watch another tutorial. Then they tell themselves they have started, but they have only decorated the doorway. They have not entered. A real first bite creates contact with the difficult part of the task. If you are selling, an offer must reach a real person. If you are studying, you must attempt to recall, explain, or solve something. If you are repairing a relationship, honest communication must begin. If you are improving your finances, you must look at real numbers or make a real decision. If you are building your health, your body must move or your choices must change. Do not measure the first bite by how comfortable it feels. Measure it by whether it produces evidence. Evidence is what your mind cannot argue with. A completed sentence is evidence. A sent application is evidence. A recorded workout is evidence. A difficult question asked respectfully is evidence. A product offered to a customer is evidence. You can doubt your potential, but you cannot deny completed action. The more evidence you create, the less power your old identity holds over you. Perhaps you have spent years describing yourself as a procrastinator. Every delay seemed to support that story. Every abandoned plan became another witness against you. But identity is not changed by repeating positive words while your behavior remains the same. Identity changes when your behavior creates new proof. You begin when you said you would begin. That is proof. You take one uncomfortable action before escaping into easy work. That is proof. You return after a difficult day instead of waiting for a perfect week. That is proof. At first, the evidence may seem small, but your mind is always watching what you repeatedly do. Eventually, it must update the story. You are no longer only the person who avoids. You are becoming the person who enters. This is why the first bite should happen early, before the day becomes crowded with excuses. The longer you carry an important task without touching it, the more mental energy it consumes. It follows you into conversations. It interrupts moments of rest. It appears while you are trying to sleep. You may not be working on the task, but the task is still working on you. A small action taken early changes the emotional direction of the entire day. You stop feeling hunted. You stop using energy to avoid the thing you know matters. Even if the task is not complete, you have established movement. You have reminded yourself that your priorities are not merely wishes. They can command action. This does not mean every person must wake at the same hour or follow the same routine. The exact time is less important than the protected position of the task. Do not place your most important work at the mercy of whatever energy remains after everything else has taken its share. Give it a doorway before the world fills your mind with smaller demands. Even 10 focused minutes can create a psychological victory, but those 10 minutes must belong to the real task, not messages, not preparation without purpose, not searching for more motivation, the real task. When the first bite is still difficult, reduce the distance between intention and movement. Prepare the environment before resistance arrives. If you want to write in the morning, leave the document open at the exact sentence where you will begin. If you want to exercise, place your clothes and shoes where you cannot ignore them. If you want to study, Put the book, notebook, and question on the desk the night before. If you need to make a call, write the phone number and your opening sentence on a visible piece of paper. If you need to complete an online application, open the correct page and place the necessary information beside you. This is not a meaningless productivity trick. It is a way of respecting the fact that human behavior is influenced by friction. When the desired action requires 10 small preparations, every preparation becomes a chance to escape. You search for the file and notice an old message. You look for your shoes and decide to sit down. You open the browser and see a notification. You try to remember what you planned and begin questioning the plan. Resistance often wins through these tiny delays. Remove them. Make the right action easy to see and easy to enter. Make the distracting action slightly more difficult. Put the phone in another room. Close unnecessary tabs. Log out of the account that steals your attention. Turn off notifications. Clear one working space. Tell the people around you that you need 20 uninterrupted minutes. You do not need an environment without temptation. You need an environment in which your chosen action has the shortest path. People sometimes believe that using the environment is a sign of weak discipline. It is not. Discipline is not proving that you can resist 1,000 distractions every minute. Discipline is arranging your choices so your attention can serve what matters. A pilot uses instruments. A musician prepares the stage. An athlete organizes training equipment. A focused person prepares the conditions in which focus has a chance to survive. Your environment is either inviting the first bite or quietly increasing the price of it. Look around and ask, what does this space make easy? If it makes distraction easy and important work difficult, your behavior should not surprise you. Change the invitation. There is also emotional friction. Sometimes the first action is clear, but it is connected to shame, fear, rejection, or grief. You know which message to send, but sending it may expose you to an answer you do not want. You know which bill to open, but you are afraid of the number. You know which doctor to call, but the possibility of bad news frightens you. You know which boundary to express, but you fear disappointing someone. In these moments, making the first bite smaller does not remove the emotion. It gives the emotion a container. You are not required to solve your entire future. You are required to face one piece of truth. Open the bill and write down the amount. Make the appointment without trying to predict the result. Write the boundary before deciding how the other person will respond. Send the application without demanding certainty that you will be accepted. Courage is rarely the absence of emotional pain. Courage is giving pain one specific action through which it can move. When fear remains vague, it spreads everywhere. When fear is connected to one clear action, it becomes something you can carry. You may still feel your heart beating faster. Your hands may still feel tense. Your mind may still offer reasons to delay, but you can act while fear is speaking. You do not need to silence every thought before moving your hand. You do not need to win a debate with anxiety. You only need to perform the first visible action before anxiety makes the decision for you. Suppose you need to set a boundary with someone who repeatedly disrespects your time. You have delayed the conversation for months. Each time the person calls, you say yes. Each time you agree, resentment grows. You imagine a confrontation, anger, rejection, or the end of the relationship, so you remain silent. You tell yourself you are keeping the peace, but the peace is false because you pay for it internally. The entire problem feels too large because your mind believes one conversation must solve every issue in the relationship. It does not. The first bite could be writing one sentence: I care about our relationship, but I can no longer agree to plans without being asked in advance. That sentence is not the complete conversation. It does not control the other person's reaction. It does not guarantee comfort, but it turns your need into language. The next bite could be choosing a calm time to speak. The next could be saying the sentence without attacking: apologizing, or explaining it for 20 minutes. The task becomes possible when you stop demanding that the first action control the final outcome. You are responsible for the action. You are not responsible for controlling every consequence. This truth matters far beyond difficult conversations. Many people delay beginning because they are trying to guarantee the ending. They want certainty that the business will succeed before making the offer. They want certainty that the relationship will last before becoming honest. They want certainty that they will be excellent before practicing. They want certainty that no one will criticize them before sharing their work. They want certainty that the decision will be perfect before choosing. But certainty often arrives after movement, not before it. The first bite is an act of intelligent uncertainty. It says, "I do not know everything yet, but I know enough to take this step." Once you take the step, you receive information that was unavailable while you stood still. A customer responds. A teacher gives feedback. Your body adapts. The conversation reveals the real problem. The first draft shows you what the idea is missing. The application exposes which documents you need. Action becomes a question asked to reality. Reality answers through results. This is why a mistaken first step can sometimes be more valuable than endless thinking. A mistake gives direction. Avoidance gives nothing except temporary relief and a larger fear tomorrow. You are allowed to adjust after beginning. You are allowed to discover that your original plan was incomplete. You are allowed to change your approach. Beginning is not signing a contract with every assumption you currently hold. It is entering the place where learning can finally happen. Perfectionism hates this idea because perfectionism wants the first attempt to look like the final result. It wants the first sentence to sound published, the first workout to feel powerful, the first presentation to impress everyone, the first business decision to produce profit, the first difficult conversation to be calm, mature, and beautifully expressed. When reality cannot meet these impossible expectations, perfectionism recommends delay. Learn a little more. Wait until you have more time. Start when you can do it properly. Do not risk looking foolish. These instructions sound responsible, but they often protect the ego rather than the goal. Your goal does not need you to look impressive at the beginning. Your goal needs you to be present. An imperfect beginning gives excellence something to work with. Without the imperfect beginning, excellence remains imaginary. You cannot improve a workout you did not perform. You cannot edit words you did not write. You cannot strengthen a boundary you never expressed. You cannot refine a product no one has used. You cannot learn from a decision you refuse to make. Give yourself permission to produce the version that comes before the good version, the rough version, the uncertain version, the version that proves you entered the arena. You are not celebrating poor quality. You are refusing to demand quality before practice has had the chance to create it. The first bite becomes even more powerful when you connect it to a reliable signal. A signal is something that tells your body, now we begin. It might be a specific time, a particular chair, a cup of tea placed beside the notebook, a short piece of music, a timer set for 10 minutes, 3 slow breaths before making the call. The signal should be simple and repeatable. Its purpose is not to create a magical feeling. Its purpose is to reduce negotiation. At first, the signal may feel ordinary. After repetition, it becomes a bridge. The time arrives, the chair is ready, the document is open, the timer begins. Your body learns what follows. You are creating a pathway from decision to movement. Be careful not to turn the signal into another complicated ritual. You do not need the perfect room, perfect music, perfect drink, perfect weather, and perfect state of mind. If the ritual requires too many conditions, it becomes another form of avoidance. The signal should make beginning easier, not more delicate. A simple doorway is stronger than a beautiful doorway you can rarely use. There will still be days when the first bite feels unpleasant. That does not mean the system has failed. The goal is not to remove every moment of resistance. The goal is to make resistance too weak to control the first action. You may complain internally while opening the document. Open it anyway. You may feel tired while putting on your shoes. Put them on anyway. You may doubt yourself while dialing the number. Dial it anyway. You may feel embarrassed while writing the first terrible paragraph. Write it anyway. Your feelings are allowed to come with you. They are not allowed to choose the direction. This is where you begin separating discomfort from danger. Your mind often treats an uncomfortable action as if it is a threat, but a difficult email is not a wild animal. A blank page is not an attack. A workout is not a punishment. A respectful boundary is not a crime. The sensations may be intense, but intensity does not always mean danger. Sometimes intensity means you are approaching a part of your life that has been waiting for your courage. Pause and name what you feel. This is uncertainty. This is embarrassment. This is effort. This is fear of judgment. This is the discomfort of beginning. Naming the feeling reduces its mystery. Then return to the first physical action. Touch the keyboard, open the file, stand up, write the date, say the first sentence. Movement reminds your nervous system that you are not trapped. You are choosing, after the first bite, protect the next step from confusion. Many people create a small amount of progress, stop, and then return the following day with no idea where to continue. They must rebuild the entire mental context. The task feels cold again. Resistance returns. Before you stop working, leave yourself a visible bridge. Do not simply close the document. Write the next sentence you need to complete. Leave a question at the bottom of the page. Highlight the next problem. Place the required material on top of the notebook. Write a short instruction to your future self. Begin by checking the total in column 3. Or, next, explain why the customer has this problem. This small act turns tomorrow's beginning into a continuation. A continuation is easier than a restart. You are leaving a breadcrumb for the person you will be when energy is lower and memory is weaker. Do not expect tomorrow's version of you to reconstruct today's clarity. Leave the doorway open. The same principle can help when a task must be completed over many weeks. Break the work into visible bites, but make sure every bite belongs to a meaningful chain. One page connects to one section connects to one chapter, one conversation connects to one offer, one workout connects to 1 month of training, one payment connects to a debt reduction plan. One boundary connects to a life with greater self-respect. The small action becomes powerful because it serves something larger. Without that connection, small actions can feel empty. With that connection, even 10 focused minutes can carry dignity. You know what the action is building. You know why the bite matters. You are not merely completing a tiny task. You are casting a vote for the future you claim to want. There may be days when the first bite is all you can give. Give it honestly. There may be days when the first bite opens the door to extraordinary focus. Use the momentum, but do not judge your entire future by one day's capacity. The purpose is not to perform dramatically once. The purpose is to become available for meaningful action repeatedly. Intensity can impress you. Repetition can transform you. A person who works for 6 hours once and then avoids the task for 3 weeks may produce less than someone who enters the work for 30 honest minutes each day. The repeated first bite keeps the relationship with the task alive. It prevents fear from rebuilding the wall. It keeps your skills warm. It gives your mind evidence that returning is normal. This is how difficult work gradually loses its power to frighten you. Not because the work becomes easy, but because beginning becomes familiar. Familiarity is one of the quiet rewards of repetition. The first call feels frightening. The 10th call feels possible. The first page feels uncertain. The 20th page gives you a rhythm. The first boundary shakes your voice. The next boundary reminds you that your needs can survive being spoken. The first workout makes you question yourself. Weeks later, movement has become part of who you are. You do not wait for fear to disappear before practicing. Practice teaches fear that it no longer controls the doorway. If you want to make the first bite impossible to refuse, remember 4 qualities. It must be clear enough that you know exactly what to do, small enough that resistance cannot honestly call it impossible, real enough that it touches the meaningful work, finished enough that you can point to evidence when it is done, clear, small, real, finished. Imagine applying these qualities to something you have avoided, not a theoretical task, your task, the one that visits your mind when the room becomes quiet, the one you keep moving to tomorrow, the one that has begun affecting the way you see yourself. What would a clear first bite look like? Not solve everything, not change my life, not become disciplined. What can your hands actually do? Perhaps you can open the document and write the title. Perhaps you can list the first 3 facts. Perhaps you can send one message asking for the meeting. Perhaps you can place the unpaid bill in front of you and read it completely. Perhaps you can throw away one item that keeps pulling you toward an unhealthy habit. Perhaps you can walk for 5 minutes. Perhaps you can apologize without defending yourself. Perhaps you can say, "I need help." Perhaps you can turn off the phone and sit with the problem for 10 honest minutes. Choose an action that is small but cannot be mistaken for hiding. Then decide when it will happen. Do not leave it floating in the word later. Later has no clock. Later has no location. Later makes no demand. Choose a real moment. When that moment arrives, do not ask yourself whether you feel ready. Readiness is no longer the requirement. Do not reopen the decision. Do not begin negotiating for a more comfortable time. Let the decision made by your wiser self guide the body of your present self. Move before the excuse completes its sentence. Touch the task. Take the bite. Then look at what exists that did not exist before. That evidence may appear small to someone else. It is not small to the part of you that has been trapped in avoidance. It is a broken pattern. It is a promise kept. It is a doorway crossed. It is proof that the task can be approached. And once it can be approached, it can be continued. Once it can be continued, it can be completed. The wall between you and your future is rarely destroyed in one dramatic moment. More often, it is weakened by one honest action repeated until the wall no longer has the strength to stop you. Your life does not change only when the entire goal is achieved. It begins changing the moment you stop running from the first step. The page does not need to be perfect. The conversation does not need to be comfortable. The plan does not need to be complete. The fear does not need to disappear. The whole task does not need to fit inside today. You only need one clear entrance, one action your hands can perform, one promise small enough to keep and meaningful enough to matter. The mountain can remain large. Your first step can remain small. The size of the step does not determine the size of your future. The direction does. Stop staring at the whole mountain. Stop demanding that today carry the weight of every tomorrow. Stop asking for enough courage to finish everything. Ask for enough courage to begin something. Then make the first bite so clear, so close, and so honest that resistance has nowhere left to hide. You do not need to conquer your entire life tonight. But before this day ends, leave one piece of evidence that you finally stopped allowing fear to choose for you. Take the first bite, and let that single act become the moment your future begins moving again. Chapter 5. Protect the hour that can change your life. The first bite gets you through the door, but walking through the door is not enough if you allow the world to pull you back outside 5 minutes later. You can learn how to begin without motivation. You can make the first action clear, small, and impossible to refuse. But if every beginning is interrupted by notifications, messages, minor requests, and other people's priorities, your most meaningful work will never receive enough attention to grow. Starting creates movement. protected attention creates results. There is an hour hidden somewhere inside your day that could change the direction of your life. It may not always be exactly 60 minutes. For some people, it may be 45 minutes before work. For others, it may be 30 quiet minutes after their children fall asleep. It could be the first hour of the morning, a protected block during the afternoon, or a calm period late at night. The exact time is not what makes it powerful. What makes it powerful is what you refuse to let enter it. Most people do not lose their future in one terrible decision. They lose it through small daily interruptions that appear harmless. 5 minutes checking messages. 10 minutes responding to something that was never urgent. 15 minutes watching content they did not plan to watch. A quick favor that becomes half an hour. A casual conversation that consumes their best energy. An unnecessary meeting. Another notification. Another email. Another request. Another promise to begin later. None of these moments appears powerful enough to destroy a dream, but together they quietly take the time and attention that dream required. Your future is rarely stolen all at once. It is taken in small pieces while you are looking in another direction. At the end of the day, you tell yourself that you did not have enough time. But often, time was present. It simply belonged to everyone and everything except the life you claimed you wanted. This truth may feel uncomfortable, but it can also set you free. If the problem were truly that no time existed, you would be powerless. But if the problem is that your most valuable time has remained unprotected, then something can change. You cannot control every demand that enters your day. You may have a job, children, aging parents, health problems, financial pressure, or responsibilities that cannot be ignored. Life does not always allow perfect routines or quiet mornings, but even in an imperfect life, you can begin identifying which part of your time still belongs to you. Then you can protect it with seriousness, not because your work is more important than every person around you, but because your future deserves more than whatever energy happens to remain after the world has finished using you. Many people give their clearest attention to other people's priorities and save their deepest goals for the moment when they are exhausted. They wake up and immediately open their phones. Before they have chosen the direction of their own mind, they are consuming news, opinions, problems, requests, and comparisons. They enter the day as responders. They answer messages, react to notifications, solve small emergencies, handle tasks that feel urgent. By the time they finally approach their meaningful work, their attention has been divided into pieces. The body may still be sitting at the desk, but the best energy has already been spent. Then they judge themselves for not being focused. They believe they lack discipline. But sometimes the problem is not a lack of discipline. It is that they have placed their most valuable goal in the weakest part of the day. You cannot repeatedly give your dream the leftovers of your attention and expect it to become the center of your life. Your important work needs an appointment. It needs a boundary. It needs a time when it does not compete with every voice that knows how to reach you. That protected period is your power hour. Again, it does not need to last exactly 1 hour. The principle matters more than the number. It is a block of time during which one meaningful task receives your undivided attention, not your partial attention, not the attention that remains while you check messages, not the attention you give between conversations, undivided attention. For that period, you are not available to every possibility. You choose one direction and remain with it long enough to produce something real. This may sound simple, but it can feel uncomfortable, because protecting your attention requires you to disappoint distractions. Your phone wants an immediate response. Your inbox wants to be cleared. Other people want access to you at the moment their need appears. Your own mind wants novelty whenever the work becomes difficult. To protect 1 hour, you must be willing to let some things remain unanswered. You must allow a message to wait. You must allow a notification to exist without obeying it. You must allow someone else's minor request to remain their responsibility. You must allow boredom and difficulty to sit beside you without escaping. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. You are deciding that the ability to reach you does not automatically give someone the right to control your attention. Think about how easily modern life turns access into obligation. Your phone makes you reachable almost every moment. Because you can answer immediately, people begin expecting that you will. Because information can arrive instantly, your mind begins treating it as if it deserves instant attention. But availability is not the same as responsibility. A message is not automatically an emergency. A notification is not a command. Someone else's impatience does not create your obligation. Every time you interrupt meaningful work to respond to something insignificant, you make a trade. You trade depth for reaction, progress for availability, your chosen future for the comfort of appearing responsive. The trade feels small in the moment, but its cost grows through repetition. Imagine a woman named Maya who wants to build a small online business. She works full-time and cares for her family. She does not have endless free hours. Her goal matters deeply because she wants greater financial stability and more control over her future. Every Sunday, Maya tells herself that this will be the week she finally makes progress, but her evenings follow the same pattern. She comes home tired. She eats dinner and handles her responsibilities. When a quiet hour finally appears, she sits down with her laptop. Before beginning, she checks one message. That message leads to another application. Then she sees a short video. The video reminds her of something she wants to search for. A friend sends a message, and Maya does not want to seem rude. She responds. 20 minutes disappear. When she returns to the business, she cannot remember exactly where she stopped. She begins researching again. Soon she feels overwhelmed. She tells herself she is too tired to create anything valuable, so she watches more videos about people who have already built successful businesses. At the end of the evening, Maya feels both exhausted and guilty. She had time, but she never truly possessed it. Her attention was open to everything, which meant it belonged to nothing. Maya initially believes she needs more hours, but more unprotected hours would produce the same result. What she needs is one guarded block of attention. She chooses 45 minutes after dinner on 4 evenings each week. During those 45 minutes, her phone remains in another room. Her family knows that unless something is genuinely urgent, she is unavailable. She decides what she will work on before the block begins. She does not use the time to choose a task. She enters already knowing the first action. On Monday, she writes one section of her offer. On Tuesday, she speaks with a potential customer. On Wednesday, she improves the offer based on what she heard. On Thursday, she sends it to 3 people. 45 minutes does not sound dramatic, but after 1 month, Maya has given her goal 12 focused hours. Not 12 hours of half working while scrolling, not 12 hours of researching without deciding, 12 hours of real contact with the work. Those hours create something that months of hoping could not create. A clear offer, real feedback, new skills, greater confidence, possible customers. Most importantly, Maya begins seeing herself differently. She is no longer someone who only talks about building a business. She is building one. Her circumstances did not suddenly become easy. Her responsibilities did not disappear. She did not find a secret room containing unlimited time. She protected a small piece of the life she already had. That piece began changing everything around it. This is the hidden power of focused time. One protected hour does more than produce work. It creates order. When you know your meaningful task has a place, it stops fighting for attention during every other moment. You can rest without the same level of guilt because you know you have honored the priority. You can be more present with other people because you are no longer silently angry that your own life keeps being postponed. You can handle smaller responsibilities with greater calm because they are no longer replacing what matters most. A protected hour does not only improve productivity, it can improve your relationship with your entire day. But the hour must be designed before it arrives. If you wait until the beginning of that hour to decide what to do, you will spend its most valuable minutes in confusion. You will open your laptop, look through your files, check your email for context, read old notes, consider several possibilities, question which task matters most. By the time you finally choose, resistance will already have found you. Decide the target in advance. Before the protected period begins, complete this sentence in your mind. When this hour is over, what must exist that does not exist now? Not what will you think about. Not what will you research endlessly. What will exist? A completed page, a sent proposal, a practiced presentation, a recorded lesson, a finished application, a difficult phone call, a reviewed financial statement, a solved set of problems, a clear decision, a visible result gives the hour a direction. It also protects you from one of the most convincing forms of procrastination, useful work that is not useful now. You may have many worthwhile tasks. Your inbox may need attention. Your files may need organizing. There may be calls to return and plans to update. But during your protected hour, a task is not valuable merely because it is useful. It must be useful to the outcome you selected. This distinction matters because the mind will offer you easier forms of productivity whenever the real work becomes uncomfortable. If you are writing something difficult, you may suddenly feel inspired to organize your desk. If you are preparing an important offer, you may remember 10 emails that could be answered. If you are studying a challenging subject, cleaning the room may begin to feel urgent. If you are making a serious financial decision, designing a better budget template may feel safer than looking at the actual numbers. The substitute task may be respectable. It may eventually need to be done, but if it pulls you away from the chosen outcome, it is still an escape. During the protected hour, do not ask, "Is this activity useful?" Ask, "Is this the work I promised to protect?" That question will bring you back to the truth. Your hour also needs a visible beginning. Use one simple signal. Close the door. Place the phone outside the room. Clear the unnecessary tabs. Open the exact document. Set a timer. Write the desired outcome at the top of the page. Then begin with the first bite you identified. Do not create a complicated ritual that consumes half the time. You are not preparing to prepare. You are entering the work. The signal should tell your mind that the period of negotiation has ended. For the next block of time, the decision has already been made. At first, your mind may resist this boundary. It may suddenly remember something important. It may create curiosity about a message. It may tell you to check whether anyone needs you. It may convince you that a quick look at social media will help you relax. Notice what is happening. The mind has become accustomed to receiving stimulation whenever effort appears. The moment the task becomes uncertain or difficult, it asks for an escape. If you answer that request every time, you train yourself to abandon meaningful work at the first sign of discomfort. Instead, remain seated. Do not demand perfect concentration. Simply refuse to leave. You can feel distracted without following the distraction. You can feel bored without reaching for entertainment. You can feel uncertain without opening 10 new tabs. Let the discomfort rise. Let it remain for a moment. Then return your eyes to the next sentence, number, movement, or decision. Every return is a repetition of focus. People sometimes imagine that focused individuals never become distracted. That is not true. Focused people notice distraction and return before it takes control of the hour. The return is the skill. The first time your attention leaves, return. The 10th time it leaves, return. Do not waste more time criticizing yourself. Self-criticism can become another distraction. You do not need to feel ashamed that your mind wandered. You need to bring it back again and again and again. Eventually, the distance between distraction and return becomes shorter. This is how concentration becomes stronger, not through waiting for a mind that never wanders, but through repeatedly guiding the wandering mind home. One of the best ways to protect this process is to keep a distraction page beside you. When your mind remembers an unrelated task, do not immediately act on it. Write it down, reply to the message, buy groceries, check the appointment, search for that information. By writing it down, you reassure your mind that the thought will not be lost. Then return to the protected work. After the hour ends, you can examine the list and decide what genuinely deserves attention. Many thoughts that feel urgent while you are concentrating will look far less important later. The distraction page prevents memory from becoming an excuse for escape. External interruptions require a different kind of courage. If people are accustomed to having immediate access to you, your new boundary may surprise them. You may need to explain it clearly. I will be unavailable from 7 to 8 unless something is urgent. I will answer messages after I finish this work. I need 30 uninterrupted minutes. Then I can help. You do not need to become rude or distant. You need to become clear. Unspoken boundaries are often invisible. Other people cannot respect a limit they do not know exists. State the boundary calmly. Keep it consistently. Then respect the same boundary yourself. It makes little sense to ask others not to interrupt while you interrupt yourself every 4 minutes. Your actions teach people how seriously to take your time. When you repeatedly abandon your own protected hour for minor requests, everyone learns that the boundary is flexible. When you keep it with calm consistency, the people around you begin adjusting. Some may resist. This is where guilt can become dangerous. You may feel selfish for saying no. You may worry that people will think you have changed. Perhaps you have spent years being the person who is always available, always helpful, always willing to delay personal plans. Others may have benefited from your lack of boundaries. When you begin protecting your time, they may not celebrate. Do not automatically interpret their discomfort as proof that you are wrong. A boundary often feels offensive to someone who was comfortable with your absence from your own life. You can care about people without giving them every hour. You can be generous without being permanently interruptible. You can support others without abandoning the work that may improve your future and the future of those you love. Protecting 1 hour is not rejecting the people around you. It is refusing to reject yourself. Of course, real emergencies happen. Children become sick, work crises appear, families need support. Some days will not follow the plan. The goal is not to become rigid or uncaring. The goal is to distinguish an emergency from ordinary access. An emergency requires immediate action. A preference can wait. A message can wait. A minor problem can wait. Many things feel urgent only because no boundary has taught them patience. When a true responsibility interrupts your protected hour, handle it without turning one disruption into complete surrender. If possible, move the block to another time. If you cannot recover the full hour, recover 20 minutes. If even 20 minutes are impossible, complete one meaningful action before the day ends. Protect continuity. One difficult day does not destroy your progress. But the belief that a difficult day gives you permission to disappear for a week can destroy it. Return quickly. Do not make yourself earn the right to begin again. You do not need a new Monday, a new month, or a perfect schedule. You need the next available block. Consistency is not a life without interruption. Consistency is a life in which interruption does not become identity. The quality of the protected hour also depends on your energy. Time is not your only resource. Attention, emotional strength, and physical energy shape what you can do with that time. Notice when your mind is naturally clearer. Some people think best early in the morning. Others become focused later in the day. Some have control over their schedules. Others must work around responsibilities. Do not copy another person's routine without examining your own reality. The best hour is not the hour that looks impressive online. It is the hour you can realistically protect and repeatedly use. But whenever possible, match your best energy to your most important task. Do not spend your clearest hour answering routine messages if those messages can be handled when your energy is lower. Do not use the strongest part of your mind for tasks that require almost no thought. Your high energy time is expensive. Spend it on work that can change something. Use lower energy periods for maintenance, responding, organizing, scheduling, routine administration. Necessary tasks still deserve a place, but they should not automatically consume your best mental state. The world will always offer small tasks that provide immediate satisfaction. You answer an email and the unread number decreases. You clean a surface and the difference is visible. You respond to a message and someone thanks you. Meaningful work may not reward you so quickly. You can write for an hour and still have an unfinished chapter. You can practice a skill and still feel imperfect. You can build a business without receiving immediate profit. You can exercise without seeing a transformed body that evening. You can study without receiving the final result today. Shallow tasks provide quick closure. Deep tasks require faith. You must trust that today's focused effort is building something you cannot fully see yet. That delay between effort and reward is where many people quit. They return to smaller work because smaller work makes them feel successful immediately. But if you only perform actions that reward you quickly, you will abandon many of the actions capable of changing your life. Your protected hour is a declaration that delayed rewards still matter. It says, I am willing to work today for a result that may not thank me until months from now. That is maturity. That is vision. That is how a future is constructed. Consider what one focused hour can become when repeated. 1 hour may not seem powerful, but 5 protected hours each week become more than 200 hours in a year. 200 hours of deliberate practice can transform a skill. 200 hours of writing can produce a book. 200 hours of study can create professional knowledge. 200 hours of focused work can build a serious project, strengthen a business, transform a body, or prepare someone for a completely different opportunity. The individual hour feels small because you are comparing it to the finished dream. Do not compare it to the dream. Compare it to another hour of avoidance. 1 hour of avoidance leaves you where you were. 1 protected hour places another piece of your future into reality. Repeated often enough, those pieces become a life other people may call lucky. They will see the result. They will not see the evenings when you placed the phone outside the room. They will not see the mornings when you began before you felt ready. They will not see the invitations you declined, the distractions you ignored, or the moments when you returned your attention for the 20th time. They may call your progress talent, timing, or fortune. You will know that much of it was built inside hours that looked ordinary, hours no one applauded, hours you protected because you finally understood their value. To protect an hour, you must also decide what you are willing to sacrifice. Every meaningful yes requires a no. If you say yes to focused writing, you may need to say no to an hour of entertainment. If you say yes to training, you may need to say no to staying in bed. If you say yes to building a new future, you may need to say no to being immediately available. If you say yes to financial progress, you may need to say no to an unnecessary purchase. If you say yes to learning, you may need to say no to comfortable repetition. This is not punishment, it is priority. A priority that costs nothing is often only a preference. The sacrifice gives your decision weight. But choose the sacrifice intelligently. Do not destroy your health, relationships, or necessary rest in the name of progress. You are building a life, not escaping from one. The protected hour should make you more purposeful, not permanently exhausted. Sleep is not laziness. Recovery is not weakness. Time with people you love is not automatically wasted. The goal is not to turn every moment into production. The goal is to stop allowing meaningless consumption to take the time required by meaningful creation. There is a difference between rest and escape. Rest restores your ability to return. Escape keeps you away and leaves you more tired. After genuine rest, your mind feels clearer. After endless distraction, your mind often feels scattered, guilty, and empty. Learn to recognize the difference, protect your work, and protect the recovery that allows you to do it well. Both require boundaries. There will be moments when you feel that your protected hour produced nothing. You may struggle with one paragraph. You may fail to solve the problem. You may practice without visible improvement. Do not judge the hour only by the amount produced. Sometimes the most valuable work happens beneath the surface. You clarify what does not work. You discover what you do not understand. You remain with a problem long enough for deeper thinking to begin. You strengthen your ability to stay when escape would have been easier. Not every protected hour creates an impressive result. Every honest protected hour strengthens the person capable of creating results. That person is your most important project. The disciplined version of you is not created after success. That person is created during the quiet hours before success becomes visible, when nobody is watching, when the reward is distant, when the task is difficult, when distraction is available, when you remain anyway. Your attention is one of the clearest ways you show what matters to you. Words can claim that a goal is important. Attention reveals the truth. Look at where your best attention goes. Does it go toward building or reacting, creating or consuming, your purpose or someone else's urgency, the future or the feed? Do not answer with shame. Answer with honesty. Shame keeps you staring backward. Honesty gives you a decision. Choose one block of time. Choose one meaningful outcome. Choose the first action. Remove the obvious distractions. Tell the necessary people, then guard the doorway. When the hour begins, be there completely, not perfectly. Completely. Let the world continue without your immediate reaction. Let the messages wait. Let the noise remain outside. Your dream has waited long enough for your attention. Give it something better than promises. Give it your presence. At the end of the hour, record what you completed and decide the next visible step. Then leave that step ready for your return. Do not force yourself to reconstruct the path tomorrow. Protect tomorrow's beginning while today's work is still clear. Over time, this hour will become more than a block on your schedule. It will become a place where your identity changes, a place where you stop being ruled by urgency, a place where your promises become evidence, a place where ideas turn into pages, plans turn into actions, and actions turn into a different future. The world may never understand the importance of that hour. Protect it anyway. Other people may not immediately respect the boundary. Keep it calmly. Your mind may offer 100 reasons to leave. Remain, because the life you want will not be created by what occasionally receives your interest. It will be created by what repeatedly receives your protected attention. You do not need to find more life. You need to stop giving away the part of your life that can still be directed. 1 hour, one task, one undivided decision. That may appear small, but 1 hour protected today can create an opportunity that changes next year. It can develop the skill that changes your career. It can finish the work that changes your finances. It can build the strength that changes your health. It can produce the message that changes someone else's life. It can restore the self-respect you lost through years of broken promises. Your future does not always need more time. Sometimes it only needs 1 hour that the present world is no longer allowed to steal. Find that hour. Name what it is for. Guard it from noise. Guard it from false urgency. Guard it from your own habit of escape. Then enter it with the seriousness of someone who finally understands that attention is life, and that whatever repeatedly receives your attention is slowly becoming your destiny. Chapter 6. Finish before your mind begins negotiating. Beginning is difficult, but beginning is not where most dreams die. They die in the space between excitement and completion. They die after the first burst of energy disappears. They die when the work becomes repetitive, uncertain, or uncomfortable. They die when the mind begins negotiating. Your mind rarely tells you to abandon an important goal directly. If it said, "Destroy your future," you would reject the instruction. Instead, it speaks in reasonable language. You have done enough for today. You will think more clearly tomorrow. Check your phone for only 1 minute. This plan may not be right. Maybe you should research a better method. You are too tired to produce quality work. You can finish later. You deserve a break. Some of these statements may occasionally be true. That is what makes them dangerous. Avoidance does not always sound like fear. Sometimes it sounds like wisdom. Sometimes it sounds like self-care. Sometimes it sounds like patience, preparation, or high standards. But beneath the respectable language, the real message is often simple. Leave the discomfort now. Your mind wants relief. The task wants completion. At some point, you must decide which one will control your behavior. You have already learned how to identify the real task hiding beneath busy work. You have stopped waiting for motivation. You have made the first bite easier to take, and you have begun protecting time for meaningful action. But a protected hour can still be wasted if you spend half of it renegotiating a decision you already made. You sit down to work. For the first few minutes, you feel focused. Then the task becomes difficult. A sentence does not sound right. A number does not make sense. You cannot find the answer immediately. The result is not appearing as quickly as you expected. That is the moment the negotiation begins. Your mind does not say, "I am afraid of difficulty." It says, "Perhaps this is not the best use of your time." It does not say, "I want to escape uncertainty." It says, "You should wait until you have more information." It does not say, "I am uncomfortable because my work might be judged." It says, "This is not ready yet." The language changes, but the pattern remains the same. Discomfort appears. The mind offers an exit. You accept the exit. Relief arrives. That relief teaches your mind something. It teaches your mind that discomfort can control your decisions. The next time you meet the task, resistance appears sooner because your mind remembers that escape worked. This is how a momentary choice becomes a habit. You do not train procrastination only when you delay beginning. You also train it when you repeatedly abandon work the moment it becomes emotionally difficult. To break this pattern, you must stop treating every uncomfortable thought as a new decision. You already decided what matters. You already chose the task. You already entered the protected hour. The appearance of discomfort does not automatically reopen the case. Do not place your future on trial every time your mood changes. A decision made with clarity should not be cancelled by a feeling that appeared 5 minutes later. This does not mean you should continue every project forever. Plans can be wrong. Circumstances can change. New information may require a different direction, but there is a difference between changing course after thoughtful evaluation and escaping because the current step feels difficult. A strategic decision is usually made with evidence. An emotional escape is usually made with urgency. A strategic decision asks, "Is this still the right goal?" An emotional escape says, "I need to stop feeling this right now." A strategic decision creates a better direction. An emotional escape usually creates temporary relief followed by familiar regret. Learn to recognize the difference. Do not make important decisions about your work while you are standing inside the most uncomfortable minute of it. Complete the agreed block. Reach the predetermined finish line. Then evaluate with a calmer mind. This is one of the strongest ways to protect yourself from negotiation. Define done before you begin. If you start with no clear finish line, your mind can argue with you at every moment. How long should you continue? Is this enough? Should you stop now? Should you do more? Without a definition of completion, each moment requires another decision. Decisions consume energy. Negotiation enters through uncertainty. Before beginning, decide what must happen before the session is complete. Perhaps you will write 500 words. Perhaps you will work for 45 uninterrupted minutes. Perhaps you will solve 10 problems. Perhaps you will contact 3 potential customers. Perhaps you will complete the first draft of the presentation. Perhaps you will walk for 30 minutes. Perhaps you will finish one section of the application. The target should be clear enough that you cannot honestly pretend to have completed it. I will work on the project is not a finish line. I will complete the opening section and write the 3 points for the next section is a finish line. I will study is vague. I will review these 2 pages and answer these 5 questions without looking at the notes is measurable. I will improve my business gives the mind too much room to hide. I will send the offer to 5 people before noon creates evidence. When the finish line is visible, your mind may still complain, but it cannot easily confuse you. You know what remains. You know what completion looks like. You know that stopping before the line means the session is unfinished. That truth matters because many people are not losing to a lack of talent. They are losing to unclear endings. They begin many things, touch many things, and think about many things, but finish very little. Their life becomes crowded with open loops, a half-written document, an incomplete application, a course they watched but never practiced, a business idea with no offer, an apology written but never sent, a plan discussed but never executed, a room almost organized, a promise almost kept. Each unfinished loop occupies mental space. Even when you are not working on it, part of your mind continues carrying it. You feel busy because so much is open. You feel tired because nothing feels complete. You may begin another task to experience the fresh excitement of starting, but that creates another open loop. Soon, you are surrounded by beginnings. There is movement everywhere, but progress nowhere. Completion closes the loop. It turns energy into evidence. It allows the mind to release what it has been carrying. It creates a platform from which the next step can begin. An unfinished task continues asking for attention. A finished task returns attention to you. This is why learning to finish is not only about productivity, it is about mental freedom. Consider someone named Aaron. Aaron has strong ideas. He is always excited about what he could build. He begins an online course, designs the first lessons, chooses a name, creates a logo, and tells his friends about the project. For 2 weeks, he works with energy. Then he reaches the lesson that requires deeper research. The work slows down. He records a video, but dislikes how his voice sounds. He tries again. The second version feels better, but not professional enough. He watches other creators and compares their polished results with his unfinished attempt. Suddenly, Aaron remembers another idea. The new idea feels clearer, more exciting, possibly more profitable. He tells himself that changing projects is a strategic decision. He abandons the course and begins building something else. A month later, the new project reaches its own difficult middle. Once again, energy disappears. Once again, a different idea begins looking more attractive. Aaron is not incapable. His problem is that he has become addicted to beginnings and afraid of completion. Beginnings allow him to imagine success without risking judgment. An unfinished project can still be perfect in his mind. Once he finishes and releases it, reality will respond. People may ignore it, criticize it, reject it, or expose weaknesses he would rather not see. Completion removes the protection of imagination. That is why the final part of a project can feel more frightening than the first. Finishing means the work can be measured. Finishing means excuses lose their power. Finishing means you must allow reality to answer. Many people call this perfectionism, but perfectionism is often fear wearing expensive clothes. It tells you that your standards are high, Sometimes the deeper truth is that you are afraid to be seen learning. You want your first public result to look like someone else's 100th attempt. You would rather hide an unfinished masterpiece than release an imperfect piece of real work. But hidden potential cannot change your life. Only completed action can enter the world. A book no one finishes cannot be read. An offer no one sends cannot be accepted. An application no one submits cannot open a door. A boundary no one expresses cannot protect you. A skill practiced only in your imagination cannot become reliable. The work does not need to be flawless to become useful. It needs to be complete enough to meet reality. Aaron eventually creates a new rule for himself. He is not allowed to replace the course with another project merely because a new idea feels exciting. He writes every new idea in a separate notebook, but he does not act on it until the current course reaches a clear release point. He defines the smallest complete version of the course, not the grand version with 30 lessons, perfect video production, multiple workbooks, and an entire online community. The first complete version will contain 7 useful lessons, a simple workbook, and a clear way for students to access it. Now Aaron has a finish line. When perfectionism asks for another month of improvements, Aaron returns to the definition. Are the 7 lessons complete? Do they help solve the promised problem? Can the students access them? If the answer is yes, the course can be released. It may later be improved, but improvement is no longer allowed to prevent completion. This distinction is powerful. Your first version does not need to be your final version. Completion is not the end of growth. It is the beginning of feedback. You can improve something that exists. You cannot improve something you continue hiding. Many people delay finishing because they confuse completion with permanence. They believe that once they choose, write, publish, send, or decide, they will lose the freedom to make changes. But most decisions can be refined. Most work can be edited. Most systems can be adjusted. Most skills develop after repeated attempts. Finish the version that teaches you what the next version needs. Do not ask the first attempt to contain the wisdom that only experience can provide. The final 10% of a project often carries more emotional weight than the first 90%. At the beginning, the idea is exciting. In the middle, the work becomes difficult. Near the end, judgment becomes possible. That is when strange behavior appears. You begin changing details that do not matter. You question decisions that were already good enough. You add unnecessary features. You delay sending the message. You revise the first page again instead of completing the final page. You tell yourself you are improving the work, but the work is no longer moving toward release. This is not always quality control. Sometimes it is completion avoidance. Ask yourself, am I improving the result, or am I postponing the moment when this result must face reality? The answer may be uncomfortable. Listen to it anyway. Finishing requires a different kind of courage from starting. Starting requires the courage to face uncertainty. Finishing requires the courage to release control. Once the work leaves your hands, you cannot control every reaction. You cannot force people to understand it. You cannot guarantee applause. You cannot prevent criticism. You cannot make every outcome equal the effort you invested, but you can control whether your effort becomes complete. Your responsibility is not to control the world's answer. Your responsibility is to give the world something real enough to answer. There is another reason people struggle to finish. The mind changes how it measures progress. At the beginning, every action feels significant. You create the first page, and progress feels obvious. You complete the first workout, and the new journey feels alive. You save the first amount of money, and hope rises. Later, improvement becomes harder to see. The book moves from page 70 to page 72. The body changes slowly. The debt decreases gradually. The skill improves in ways that are difficult to measure. The excitement of novelty disappears, but the work remains. This stage is not proof that progress has stopped. It is often proof that you have entered the part where results are actually built. Anyone can feel inspired by a new beginning. The deeper transformation occurs when the beginning is no longer new and you continue anyway, when no one is praising you, when progress feels slow, when the work looks ordinary, when your mood offers no assistance. This is where discipline stops being an idea and becomes a behavior. Do not demand emotional excitement from every stage of a meaningful process. Some stages will feel powerful, some will feel repetitive, some will feel confusing, some will feel almost invisible. Your feelings about the stage do not determine its importance. The bricklayer does not reject a brick because it looks similar to the one placed yesterday. The repetition is the structure. Your repeated actions may feel ordinary because you experience them individually. The result will look extraordinary because the world sees them accumulated. Finish today's brick, then return for the next one. When your mind begins negotiating during a work session, use a simple response: not now. Do not argue with every thought. An argument gives the distraction more attention. If your mind says, check the message, respond, not now. If it says, you can complete this later, respond, not now. If it says, this is not good enough, respond, finish first, evaluate later. If it says, you are tired, ask whether you are truly depleted or merely uncomfortable. If you are genuinely exhausted, honor your body intelligently. If you are only trying to escape the difficult minute, remain for 10 more minutes. 10 more honest minutes can reveal the truth. Real exhaustion usually remains. Emotional resistance often weakens once movement continues. The purpose is not to ignore your health or force yourself into burnout. The purpose is to stop using the language of self-care to protect the habit of avoidance. Real self-care protects your long-term well-being. It includes rest, but it also includes keeping promises that preserve your self-respect. Sometimes finishing is the care you owe your future self. Your present self wants relief. Your future self will carry whatever your present self leaves unfinished. Every time you say, I will handle this tomorrow, imagine that you are placing the task into tomorrow's hands. Tomorrow already has its own responsibilities, its own fatigue, its own uncertainty. Do not repeatedly overload tomorrow because today refuses to tolerate discomfort. This does not mean everything must be completed immediately. Large projects require many sessions. The lesson is to finish the commitment belonging to this session. If today's commitment is one chapter, complete the chapter. If it is one application, submit it. If it is 30 minutes of training, remain for 30 minutes. If it is one honest conversation, do not replace it with another week of private rehearsals. Finish the piece of the task that belongs to today. This creates a chain of closed promises. One session leads to another. Each session begins where the last one ended. The project moves forward without carrying the emotional weight of constant self-betrayal. You begin trusting that when you make an agreement with yourself, the agreement means something. This self-trust changes the way you approach larger goals. A large goal no longer feels like one impossible promise. It becomes a sequence of smaller promises you know how to keep. You do not need certainty that you can complete the entire journey. You need evidence that you can complete today's part, then tomorrow's part, then the part after that. Completion becomes a rhythm. To strengthen that rhythm, remove unnecessary stopping points. Every time you stop, you create a moment when negotiation can enter. If you constantly switch between tasks, answer messages, change tools, or search for additional information, you force yourself to begin again and again. Each restart carries a mental cost. You must remember where you were. Rebuild concentration. Recover the intention. Resist distraction once more. This is why scattered work can feel exhausting even when very little is completed. You are paying the cost of beginning repeatedly without receiving the reward of finishing. Stay with one meaningful unit of work until the agreed finish line. Do not open a second project because the first becomes uncomfortable. Do not redesign the entire system because one step feels slow. Do not search for a new method every time the current method demands patience. Give one approach enough consistent effort to reveal whether it works. Some people remain beginners for years because they keep replacing repetition with discovery. They are always learning a new system, buying a new tool, trying a new routine, and starting a new plan. Newness gives them hope. Repetition would give them results. A new plan can feel like progress because it removes the guilt of failing to complete the old one. But if the pattern remains unchanged, the new plan will eventually join the same unfinished collection. The system is rarely the only problem. Sometimes you must remain with a reasonable system long enough for your behavior to become different. When a genuine interruption occurs, protect the return. Life may pull you away before a session is complete. Before leaving, take 30 seconds to create a re-entry point. Write exactly where you stopped. Write the next physical action. Leave the document open to the correct place. Save the required information. Place a short note in front of you. Return by completing the second paragraph. Next, call this person. Continue with question 6. Check the total and send the form. This small instruction prevents an interruption from becoming abandonment. Without a re-entry point, you return later and face confusion. Confusion creates resistance. Resistance invites negotiation. A visible next action allows you to re-enter before excuses gather strength. Return as soon as realistically possible. The longer the gap, the more emotional weight the task collects. A 1-hour interruption can remain an interruption. A 2-week delay becomes a restart. Protect the return. You must also become careful about the word almost. Almost finished can become a permanent condition. Almost ready, almost sent, almost published, almost decided, almost changed. The distance between almost and complete may appear small, but it contains the entire result. An almost submitted application creates no opportunity. An almost finished product helps no customer. An almost expressed boundary protects no peace. An almost kept promise does not fully restore trust. Your mind may want credit for effort. Effort matters, but completion determines whether the effort can produce its intended outcome. Do not use the amount you have already done as a reason to avoid the final step. Use it as a reason to honor the work by completing it. If you have walked 90 steps toward an important door, do not build a home on the 99th step, because turning the handle feels frightening. Open the door, your mind may create a final negotiation. What if the result is not enough? Then let it be not enough. Let reality show you what must improve. Not enough and complete can teach you. Potentially perfect and unfinished cannot. What if people criticize it? Let useful criticism improve you. Let meaningless criticism pass. But do not criticize yourself in advance by denying your work the chance to exist. What if I fail? Then you will possess information you did not have while waiting. You will know what happened. You will know where the weakness exists. You will know what the next attempt must do differently. A completed failure can become instruction. An unfinished dream becomes regret. What if I succeed and more is expected from me? Then you will grow into the expectation, one completed step at a time. Do not reject an opportunity because you are afraid of the person it may require you to become. Completion is how you meet that person. The goal is not to finish everything you begin blindly. Some projects should be stopped. Some commitments were made from fear, pressure, or a version of you that no longer exists. Some directions become clearly wrong, but end them consciously. Do not leave them in a fog of avoidance. Review the evidence, make the decision, close the project, communicate what must be communicated. Take the useful lesson, release the guilt. A conscious ending is also a form of completion. What weakens you is not always stopping. It is remaining emotionally attached to something you have neither chosen to finish nor chosen to release. That uncertainty continues consuming attention. Decide. Complete the task or complete the ending. Do not let indecision keep collecting interest inside your mind. Your life needs fewer open promises, fewer invisible debts to yourself, fewer unfinished conversations, fewer goals carried only through imagination. Every completed action creates space. Space for clearer thought, space for deeper confidence, space for the next meaningful challenge. You may believe confidence is what allows people to finish. Often, finishing is what creates confidence. You submit the work and survive the judgment. You complete the conversation and survive the discomfort. You finish the training and discover that your body can carry more than your mind predicted. You honor the deadline and see that your word has weight. You close the loop and feel energy return. That evidence becomes confidence, not the fragile confidence created by imagining what you could do. The grounded confidence created by remembering what you have done. When your mind negotiates, it will often remind you of every past failure. You always quit. You never remain consistent. You have started before. Do not answer with a speech. Answer with completion. Finish today's commitment. Then tomorrow, finish another. Past evidence loses authority when new evidence appears repeatedly. You do not need to erase your history. You need to stop using it as permission to repeat itself. The version of you who abandoned old goals does not have to control the hands you possess today. Today's action can vote against yesterday's pattern. Each finished commitment is another vote. Eventually, your behavior produces a new identity. You become someone who closes loops, someone who can be trusted, someone whose mood may change without changing the promise, someone who understands that difficult minutes are part of meaningful work, someone who does not require excitement to remain, someone who finishes. That identity will affect more than productivity. It changes relationships because your words become reliable. It changes finances because plans become behavior. It changes health because intentions become repeated action. It changes your career because skills and projects reach completion. It changes the way you stand inside your own life. You no longer carry the quiet shame of knowing that your promises disappear whenever discomfort enters the room. You become steady, not because you never struggle, because struggle no longer makes every decision for you. So choose the unfinished task that has occupied your mind for too long. Define what complete means. Remove the unnecessary improvements. Separate what is essential from what is only fear asking for more time. Choose the next visible action. Set the finish line. Then begin. When the work becomes difficult, expect the negotiation. Do not be surprised by it. Your mind may become creative. It may offer comfort, doubt, curiosity, hunger, fatigue, new ideas, and apparently urgent responsibilities. Listen only long enough to determine whether there is a real danger or genuine need. If there is not, return to the task. You do not need to hate the voice. You do not need to defeat it permanently. You need to stop obeying it automatically. Let the voice speak while your hands continue. Let doubt sit beside discipline. Let discomfort watch you finish. You have already given avoidance enough unfinished pieces of your life, enough almosts, enough tomorrows, enough ideas that never became evidence, enough promises that disappeared when your feelings changed. The work in front of you may not be perfect when you finish. Finish it honestly. It may not receive the reaction you hoped for. Release it bravely. It may reveal that you need another attempt. Begin that attempt with better information, but do not remain trapped in the safe prison of unfinished potential. Your future cannot be built from what you almost completed. It needs the page you finish, the decision you make, the application you submit, the offer you send, the conversation you complete, the promise you keep, the door you finally open. Your mind will always find another reason to delay the ending. Finish before the reason becomes a decision. Finish before comfort persuades you to abandon what courage began. Finish before another day is asked to carry what today could complete. And when the final step feels heavier than all the steps before it, remember this: the weight does not mean you should turn back. Sometimes it means you are holding the exact piece that will finally close the distance between the life you keep imagining and the life you have begun creating. Chapter 7. Become the person who acts without permission. There comes a moment when procrastination is no longer about the task. It becomes a question of identity. Will you remain the person who waits for motivation, approval, confidence, and perfect conditions, or will you become the person who acts because the decision has already been made? Many people are not waiting for more time. They are waiting for permission. Permission from their family to choose a different path. Permission from their friends to take themselves seriously. Permission from people online to believe their idea has value. Permission from their past to become someone new. They want someone to look at them and say, "You are ready now. You are talented enough. You will not fail. Everyone will understand your decision." But that moment may never come. Some people will never understand your goal because they cannot see the future you see. Some will question you because your courage reminds them of what they continue avoiding. Some will advise you based on their fears rather than your possibilities. And some will support you only after your results become visible. If you wait for everyone to approve your first step, you may remain standing still for the rest of your life. Acting without permission does not mean ignoring wise advice, responsibilities, laws, or consequences. It does not mean becoming careless or arrogant. It means you can listen to guidance without surrendering ownership of your life. You can respect another person's opinion without allowing it to become your command. You can consider the risks without using them as an excuse to remain permanently safe. You can make a thoughtful decision and move even when no one is standing beside you to guarantee the outcome. At some point, you must stop asking, "Will everyone understand?" The stronger question is, "Will I respect myself if I continue doing nothing?" Think about how long you may have been waiting to feel confident before applying, waiting to feel talented before creating, waiting for someone to apologize before finding peace, waiting for another person to choose you before choosing yourself, waiting for the perfect plan before beginning, waiting for fear to disappear before becoming brave. While you wait, life continues moving. Days become months. Months become years. The unfinished task does not disappear. It quietly becomes evidence for a painful belief. Maybe I am not the kind of person who follows through, but that belief is not your identity. It is a conclusion built from repeated behavior. Change the behavior, and the conclusion must eventually change. You do not become a person of action by declaring, "I am disciplined." You become that person when you act during the moment your old identity expects you to escape. When your mind says, "tomorrow," and you begin today. When fear says, "wait for certainty," and you take the next responsible step. When distraction says, "just 5 minutes," and you remain with the work. When perfectionism says, "hide it until it is flawless," and you complete the honest version. Identity is not changed through one emotional speech. It is changed through evidence. Every action is evidence. Every kept promise is evidence. Every finished task is evidence. You have spent enough time collecting proof that you can delay. Begin collecting proof that you can move. At first, the actions may feel unnatural. That is expected. The old pattern is familiar, even when it is painful. The new pattern will feel uncomfortable because you have not lived inside it long enough. Do not mistake unfamiliarity for failure. A new identity feels like effort before it feels like truth. Imagine someone named Sarah who has wanted to change careers for 3 years. She knows her current work is draining her. She spends every evening imagining a different life, but she never takes a serious step toward it. She tells herself she needs another qualification, then another course, then more savings, then encouragement from her family. Every requirement sounds sensible, but the finish line keeps moving. When Sarah completes one course, she does not apply. She searches for another course. When she saves some money, she decides it is not enough. When one family member encourages her, she worries about the opinion of someone else. The real problem is not preparation. Sarah is waiting for a feeling of complete safety that no meaningful change can provide. One evening, she asks herself a painful question. If nothing changes during the next 3 years, will I be grateful that I remained safe? The answer is no. Sarah does not immediately resign from her job or make a reckless decision. She takes one responsible step without waiting for emotional permission. She sends an application, then another. She speaks to someone already working in the field. She improves her skills based on real feedback. Fear remains present, but it is no longer in charge. Months later, an opportunity opens. From the outside, it appears that the opportunity changed Sarah, but the deeper change happened earlier. It happened when she stopped asking fear to approve the first action. The opportunity did not create the new Sarah. The new Sarah became capable of reaching the opportunity. This is the person you must become. Not someone who never feels doubt, someone who no longer requires doubt to disappear. Not someone who knows every answer, someone willing to learn through responsible action. Not someone who receives universal approval. Someone whose values remain stronger than the need to be understood by everyone. You can ask for advice. You can learn from experience. You can change direction when evidence demands it. But the final responsibility for your life cannot be handed to the crowd. The crowd will not live with your regret. The people who tell you to wait will not return the years you lose. The person who criticizes your attempt will not carry the weight of the dream you abandoned. That weight will belong to you. So let the decision belong to you as well. There is freedom in saying, I may not know exactly how this will end, but I know what I must do next. That sentence does not promise perfection. It creates movement. You only need to know the next honest action. Make the call, write the page, begin the training, submit the application, set the boundary, open the account, end the excuse, take the first bite, protect the hour, finish the commitment, then repeat. The person who acts without permission is not created through one giant leap. That person is built through ordinary moments in which action defeats negotiation. No audience may see those moments. No one may congratulate you. You may not feel powerful while they are happening, but each moment is shaping the person who will eventually produce the result. One day, someone may ask how you became so disciplined. They will imagine that you discovered a secret source of motivation. They will not see the truth. You became disciplined when you were tired and still kept a small promise. You became focused when distraction was available, and you returned to the work. You became courageous when fear spoke, and your hands continued moving. You became trustworthy when you stopped allowing temporary feelings to cancel meaningful decisions. Your transformation happened quietly. It happened when no one was watching. This is why you must stop measuring your progress only through visible outcomes. A task may not be complete yet, but if you are returning consistently, something is already changing. A business may not be profitable yet, but if you are creating, testing, and improving, you are no longer only dreaming. Your body may not look different yet, but each completed workout is teaching you that discomfort can be carried. Your skill may not be impressive yet, but every serious practice session is building capability beneath the surface. The result is growing, and so are you. Do not insult that growth by demanding immediate proof. Continue long enough for the invisible work to become visible. Some days, acting without permission will mean doing more. Other days, it will mean returning after failure. You will miss a session, make a mistake, break a promise. Choose the easier path. This does not mean the old identity has defeated you. The danger is not one failure. The danger is turning one failure into permission to disappear. Return quickly. Do not create a dramatic story around the mistake. Do not say, "I ruined everything." Say, "I broke the pattern once. I will not repeat it today." A strong identity is not one that never falls. It is one that does not build a home on the ground. Stand up before shame begins negotiating for another week of avoidance. The fastest return is often the greatest evidence of change. You must also stop waiting for your life to become less difficult before taking yourself seriously. There will always be another responsibility, uncertainty, interruption, or problem. The conditions may improve, but life will never permanently remove every obstacle. If your progress requires a perfect season, your progress will always belong to a future season. Work with the life you actually have. Use the time available. Take the imperfect step. Adjust when necessary. Rest when needed. Return when interrupted. Finish what belongs to today. You do not need a different life before you can behave differently inside this one. This is the final shift. The task is no longer something you hope to do. It becomes part of who you are. You do not ask each morning whether your goal deserves attention. You have already answered that question. You do not wait to see whether motivation arrives. You begin with whatever energy is available. You do not treat every doubt as a warning. You examine it, learn from what is useful, and continue. You do not require applause. The kept promise is enough. This is self-leadership. It is the ability to direct yourself when no one is watching, pushing, rewarding, or rescuing you. A person who cannot lead themselves will always depend on pressure. They work only when the deadline becomes frightening, change only when the pain becomes unbearable, act only when someone else demands it. But a self-led person does not wait for life to create an emergency. They act while there is still time to choose. They do not need disaster to create discipline. They understand that every delayed task is shaping their future, so they step forward before regret becomes the only motivation left. Look at the task you have carried throughout this audiobook, the one you identified at the beginning, the one that has been controlling your attention while remaining unfinished. Perhaps it still feels difficult. That is all right. Difficulty was never the true enemy. The enemy was the belief that you had to feel different before you could act. You do not. You can act as you are, uncertain, tired, imperfect, afraid. You can begin with all of those feelings present, because action is not the reward for becoming fearless. Action is how you teach yourself that fear is not your authority. No one is coming to place the perfect moment in your hands. No one can give you the years you have already spent waiting. No one can complete the task for you and still give you the self-respect that comes from completing it yourself. This part belongs to you, so stop looking around for permission. Stop asking whether everyone will approve. Stop waiting for your past to release you. The door is already open. The task is already waiting. Your future is already being shaped by what you do next. You do not need another sign. The fact that you know what must be done is the sign. Act before fear turns knowledge into another unfinished promise. Act before tomorrow becomes another yesterday. Act because your life deserves the strongest version of you, not someday, not when conditions improve, but now. Become the person who moves while doubt is speaking. Become the person who returns after failure. Become the person who keeps the promise when nobody checks. Become the person whose actions no longer require permission. Then take the task that once controlled you and finish it. At the beginning of this audiobook, you were asked a painful question. How many times have you gone to bed disappointed because you knew exactly what needed to be done, but still did not do it? Perhaps that question felt personal because you have lived that night more than once. You have closed your eyes while carrying an unfinished task in your mind. You have promised yourself that tomorrow would be different. Then tomorrow arrived, and the same fear, uncertainty, or distraction made the decision again. But now you understand something you may not have understood before. The pain was never proof that you were lazy, weak, or incapable. It was the distance between the person you were being and the person you knew you could become. And that distance is not closed through guilt. It is closed through action. You do not need to transform your entire life tonight. You do not need a perfect plan, unlimited energy, or complete confidence. You only need to stop giving tomorrow the responsibility that belongs to today. Tomorrow has carried enough of your promises. Tomorrow has received enough unfinished plans. Tomorrow has been asked to rescue you enough times. It is time to give tomorrow something different. Give it evidence. Give it one page that has already been written, one call that has already been made, one decision that has already been taken, one difficult task that is no longer untouched. Give tomorrow a beginning it does not have to create from nothing. The task you have been avoiding may still look difficult after this audiobook ends, but difficulty is no longer a reason to run. You now know that the task becomes more powerful every time you refuse to face it, and smaller every time you touch it with honest action. You do not have to carry the entire mountain. Take the first bite. You do not have to wait for inspiration. Begin before your feelings agree. You do not have to give your whole day to the task. Protect one serious hour. You do not have to make the first version perfect. Finish something real. You do not need everyone's approval. Your future does not require their permission. The deepest lesson was never simply about managing time or completing more tasks. It was about becoming someone whose life is no longer controlled by avoidance. Someone who can feel fear without obeying it. Someone who can feel tired without automatically surrendering. Someone who can hear doubt and continue moving. Someone who understands that confidence is not found before action. It is built after promises are kept. That person is not somewhere far in the future. That person appears the moment you do what your old self would have delayed. Your transformation does not begin when the entire task is completed. It begins when your behavior changes in the presence of discomfort, when the phone calls for your attention and you remain. When your mind says later and your hands begin now. When the first attempt looks imperfect and you continue. When no one is watching and you still keep the promise. Those quiet moments are not small. They are the construction site of your new identity. Nobody may applaud the first 10 minutes. Nobody may notice the page you finish tonight. Nobody may understand why you protect 1 hour tomorrow morning, but your future will know. Your future will be built from those moments. One day, you may look back and realize that your life did not change during one dramatic explosion of motivation. It changed during an ordinary moment when you finally became tired of abandoning yourself. You sat down, you faced the task, you began. Then you returned the next day and the next. The action became a pattern. The pattern became discipline. The discipline became identity. And the identity created a life your old habits could never have produced. Do not wait until you feel fearless to become that person. Fear may walk beside you for a while. Let it walk. But do not let it lead. Do not wait until the task becomes easy. The task may remain difficult. Let it be difficult, but do not let difficulty decide. Do not wait until you can guarantee the result. No meaningful future arrives with a guarantee. Let uncertainty exist. But take the next responsible step anyway. Before you leave this audiobook, choose the task, not 5 tasks, not the entire list. The one task you know has been controlling you through avoidance. Name it honestly. Then identify the first visible action. Make it so clear that there is no room for confusion. Make it small enough to begin now, but real enough to leave evidence. Do not close this message and search for another source of motivation. Do not watch another hour of advice while the task remains untouched. Use the energy of this moment. Open the document. Put on the shoes. Write the message. Make the call. Read the first page. Complete the form. Take one action before your old pattern has time to rebuild the wall. The purpose of this audiobook was not to make you feel powerful for a few minutes. It was to help you do something powerful after the feeling fades. That is where the real change waits, not inside the words you have heard, but inside the action you take because of them. If this audiobook gave you the push you needed, subscribe to the Book Frog and stay with us for more lessons that turn self-knowledge into real action. Then write these 4 words in the comments. Today, I choose action. Do not write them as an empty promise. Write them as a declaration and immediately create the evidence to support them, because tomorrow has taken enough from you. Enough plans, enough opportunities, enough confidence, enough years that could not be returned. Today does not need another explanation. It needs a decision. The task is waiting. The door is open. Your future is watching what you do next. Take the first bite. Keep the promise. And this time, finish what you started.